Thank you and hello. In today's lecture, I will speak about a triangle, about this triangle. A triangle consisting of 3 points, war, law, and technology, that are interrelated, interactive, all the time changing each other, transforming each other, and delving into one another. Whether we see the triangle as this cute pink one on the left, or as this gothic dark one on the right, it depends on our position, our information, and our ability to draw connections. And sometimes that's really difficult. But as I imagine, most of us here are not shareholders in giant arms manufacturers or big corporations, so I assume we are all more on the right side of the spectrum. However, can we change the triangle? Perhaps can we update it like a software? In order to do that, in order to imagine a different course of events that would lead to another more deliberate future, we have to first examine the current framework, the current reality, and try to portray it as accurate as possible. So to start with war. Irrespective of whether we see war as ever-present continuity in our society, or as Clausewitz said, the continuation of politics by other means, or whether we see it by anomaly, we can agree that we are currently living in times of its expansion, normalization, and transformation. War has become for us, what has been for the majority of the world for a long time, part of an everyday discourse, much like the weather. In today's presentation, I will try to show how it is connected to other 2 parts of the triangle. So to start with technology, here I want to talk about what I call technological domination, and with what I mean something similar than what was described by Klaus Schwab as the 4th Industrial Revolution, with what he meant convergence of technologies that blur boundaries between the physical, the digital, and the biological. And whether we agree or not, whether we see this as too dramatizing, futuristic, or generalizing, the fact is that artificial intelligence, gene editing, advanced robotics, and aerospace innovations are not only transforming medicine, agriculture, and art, but are also radically reshaping military domain. These technologies have already introduced new offensive and defensive capabilities, autonomous weapons, anti-satellite systems, and military drones. Often developed in secretive, high-stakes environments, such technologies are shrouded in mystery, leaving the public with little but their devastating outcomes of their use. In Gaza, for example, an AI-driven targeting systems collecting data from who knows where, including, most likely, space technology, digital environments such as social media and other spheres, that are named Lavender, Gospel, Where is Daddy, were employed in a genocidal carpet bombing campaign that decimated the civilian population, half of which were children, in the most densely populated place on Earth. Instead of reducing harm, these systems eliminated proportionality and accountability in decision-making, leaving humans as mere stamping machines for decisions made within black box technologies. The illusion of clean technology has free from bias, subjectivity, and ideology have been pushing, and in some cases even eliminating, morality and legality out of the discourse. Another property of new technological advancements is the rise of dual-use objects and services. Here I want to give example of how Amazon, Google, and Microsoft offer their cloud services to disposal on the army that is currently accused of genocide, and at the same time, as we heard in the previous panel, moderating the discourse regarding that topic, of course, to their benefit. What this dual use has done is that it has blurred the line between military and commercial domain, as this is the use that has been initially developed as something for commercial purposes, but has been now reused by military purposes. And we see that with space technology, air technology, digital technology, and so on. The military domain is therefore pushing itself into every pore of civilian one, slowly taking over. And now to the third part of the triangle, to the law. In international law, we have been witnessing for a long time, but in the last 3 years, perhaps most densely, what I have called here the relativization of international law, the process from proliferation that has started in the 90s towards its decline. For that, there are many reasons, besides classical issues of international law, such as the absence of effective enforcement mechanisms and the vulnerability to geopolitical tensions. We are now joined by also issues such as fragmentation of international law, that is actually a logical consequence of the fact that international law has been expanding to various domains, including AI, space law, cybersecurity law, migration and refugee law, environmental law, and so on. And in cases of the hybrid weapons, which I was describing, it is now becoming increasingly impossible to decide which law actually applies for a particular situation and which law applies in case of conflict of norms. Furthermore, we have seen the rise of private actors which are generally not direct subjects of international law, which are slowly taking over the activities that the states are not allowed to do. Governed primarily by domestic laws, they exploit weaknesses in national regulations, particularly when countries allow them to do so, due to the fact that they want to protect their industries, economies, and investments, and persevere their competitiveness on the global stage. This has reached new levels with the new US administration, where we see private actors not only being present at presidential inauguration, but also acting as members of government, including giving speeches from the Oval Office. The third aspect that I want to talk about is selective application of international law. Here the examples are numerous, but I decided to speak about the selective compliance with the arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court, which you are all aware of. Those arrest warrants were applauded by various states when issued against Russian president, but were ignored and criticized by the very same states when they were issued against Israeli officials. US Senator Graham even openly stated that the Rome Statute does not apply to Israel or United States or France or Germany or Great Britain because it was not conceived to come after them. Selective compliance with decisions of international tribunals push these decisions from the sphere of legal to the sphere of political, contributing and further weakening an already fragile international legal framework and contributing to the fragmentation and relativization of international law. Another aspect which I want to mention is a distortion of concepts of law and purposeful misinterpretation of legal terms. Here I want to give two examples. One was developed by my colleague Vasya Badalic on the example of self-defense, where he claims that the US developed doctrine of preventive warfare that was then happily adopted by the rival states, transformed the notion of self-defense and blurred the line between self-defense and the act of aggression. Even more obvious example, for example, is genocide, where the legal argumentation has really got out of hand. We are seeing completely made-up arguments and false interpretations of the obligation to prevent genocide, when states are claiming that for any activity that would be preventing genocide, a judicial decision is needed, which of course would be an absurd argumentation, meaning that we would only be able to prevent genocide once the court already figured out that genocide occurred. Furthermore, We are witnessing genocide denial, but not only amongst general public, but also amongst established legal experts and politicians who used to be experts on human rights law. And perhaps what is most tragic is also the extreme violent silencing of anyone who tries to oppose this, done by the states who are claiming that they've learned from their horrific genocidal history. The last point that I want to mention regarding the relativization of international law is the blockade within the international lawmaking bodies. This is also nothing new, but has reached extreme with the geopolitical tensions of the last 3 years. Not only the political bodies, such as Security Council, are rendered completely passive and unable to do anything, but also technical bodies, such as, for example, the Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, which was actually quite productive in the end of the previous century by drawing up the framework for a newly developing technology that was happening at the time. And the states are finding new ways to bypass this blockade, as we see in the case of US solving the conflict in Ukraine and Palestine bilaterally or rather unilaterally, or in some other cases through partner agreements with like-minded states, which are also going to bypass any safeguards within the established lawmaking bodies. So, the interim conclusion would be that the current military conflicts are serving not only as test laboratories for development of new technologies, but also as test laboratories to see how far the relativization of law can go. And if we look just these two aspects, so the rise of technology, the testing of new technology, and the relativization of law, we are very often tempted to see them as a chicken-egg relation and to ask ourselves what came before. Was it the chicken or the egg? Was it the weak or broad legal framework, the one that allowed such rapid and unhinged technological development? Or was it rapid and unhinged technological development the property that made the legal framework so ineffective as it is today? We are also perhaps tempted to fantasize how or which one of those will die first. Will the chicken eat the egg? So will the legal framework once be able to stop technological developments, such as in the wild proposal on banning any further developments of AI that we witnessed, that we've also seen is quite ineffective? Or will the egg grow, expand, explode, and kill the chicken from within, meaning that the technology will become so powerful that no legal system or legal rule will be able to regulate it? But what I want to mention here in this, when we're asking these questions and when we are examining them from academic perspective, is that we are forgetting about one especially important determinative factor that I listed on the top of that triangle for a reason, because it is actually the war or the military conflicts or the military domain that will decide which of these scenarios will happen and how they will develop further. And if this is all just a software update, is it updating itself automatically? And are we just pressing OK whenever the window pops up, no matter how annoying or dangerous this content is? Or is it able to be constantly reimagined and improved? And if so, how are we going to continuously learn, adapt, and refine it when we are not even capable of naming the reality in the way that it is, and we are not even able to agree on what our current reality is? Are we going to challenge these updates, or are we going to normalize it? Thank you.